International Mother Language Day is a global annual observance held on 21 February to promote awareness of linguistic and cultural diversity and to promote multilingualism. This year, UNESCO focuses on the fight against a global learning crisis, calling on all countries to ensure children are taught in their mother tongue. For more, I'm joined by the Chief Education Officer for Culture, Namibia National Commission for UNESCO, Ministry of Higher Education, Technology and Innovation, Nehoa Kautondokwa. Nehoa, good evening and welcome to the Daily Roundup.
Good evening and thank you for having me.
This year, Mother Tongue Day is celebrated under the theme Education, a necessity to transform education. Just elaborate a bit more for us on this theme.
All right. This year's theme is built on the foundation laid from work of previous years, specifically the 2022 United Nations Transforming Education Summit convened in response to a global crisis in education. So the theme, multilingual education, a necessity to transform education, seek to place language, especially mother languages, as one of the critical components to be considered in the transformation of education in order to ensure equity, inclusion, quality, and relevance of education. So this is because more than 200 million children globally live in homes where languages spoken are different than the ones used in schools. So the theme, therefore, seeks to remind all of us, especially policymakers, to commit ourselves to the preservation of the diversity of languages and provision of quality mother language education for all.
Please highlight the importance of, language preservation and the promotion of multilingualism in society.
Well, based on my everyday work, I would say the most important reason for language preservation is the safeguarding of communities' heritage. The importance of ensuring multilingualism could be said is one of the highest level of guaranteeing cultural rights, and cultural rights are human rights. This is because multilingualism fosters inclusivity, social cohesion, and most importantly, promotes diversity of cultural expression, and thus boosting their potential contribution to plural, democratic, and peaceful dialogue between communities. So multilingualism, especially when integrated into an education system, can enhance the right to quality, equitable, and inclusive education and societies.
How can, the Namibian education system ensure that our scholars don't lose touch with their mother tongue?
There are different levels at which language preservation can be achieved, and there are also different role players to achieving the promotion of mother languages. For instance, the government has already, as early as 1991, issued the Language Policy for Schools, which recognized Namibia as a multilingual society. So one of the aims of the policy is to develop and promote indigenous Namibian languages and cultural identity of learners through the use of home language as medium of instruction for grade 1 to 3, as well as the teaching of mother language as both first and second language throughout basic education, including advanced subsidiary level. So as we speak, the policy is being implemented with grades 0 to 3 learners are taught in their mother language or the predominant local languages. So such orientation to education is important as learning is easier, but also children learn to know how to speak their mother language fluently. It also fosters community and parental involvement in education, and that leads to children being more relaxed and confident to actively participate in learning activities. But most importantly, such an approach to education expands knowledge of indigenous language and culture amongst the youth. Also, the education system should provide quality teacher training as well as provision of quality teaching and learning materials. But most importantly, the education system could consider offering mother language as medium of education for all indigenous languages in Namibia. I'm aware this could be a very costly initiative, but with smart partnerships, it is possible.
Now, in some parts of the world, Nehoa, some languages are said to be endangered or nearing this status. What are some of the contributing factors to this? And perhaps you can tell us if there are any languages in Namibia that are facing the same crisis.
Right. So languages are endangered by a variety of circumstances. So when there are no more living native speakers who use that specific language to communicate, a language is considered dead or extinct. In some cases, especially when a language is relatively spoken by a small number of people, or when there is political upheaval or a natural disaster, that can also lead to abruptly extinguishing of a language, as the number of speakers might be significantly reduced. But more commonly, especially relatable to the situation in Namibia, that could happen when a language ceases or stops to be the primary tongue or means of communication. And when all speakers become bilingual and only use that specific language amongst themselves. We are aware that Namibia, historically, there are some indigenous languages that has often been passed down through oral traditions, stories, lessons passed from generation to generation without much writing. And this remains the case, and thus it could lead to endangering of languages. Also, we have historical processes that produce negative stereotypes for some languages, and thus speakers are often ashamed or intimidated for speaking their mother tongue. Although it is not yet a recorded phenomenon in Namibia, I think we are soon headed there, as we see very few opportunities available of speaking one's mother language. We are already having a generation that is not fluent in their mother tongue, especially youth residing in urban areas.
Nehoa, that's all the time we have this evening, but thank you so much for joining us here on the Daily Roundup.
Thank you for having me.